4 tips for forScore. Hello everyone. It's Thursday. It's Harp Thursday. I'm here in Vienna, and what I thought I would do is do a quick episode talking about four different things that I found quite helpful in terms of using forScore, which is the app that I use on my iPad to use when I read sheet music. So my first tip is just a quick little workflow thing that I like in terms of it's easy and pretty painless to do, but gives you a little bit of extra security and peace of mind in terms of backing up important music files in case something happens to the physical iPad. So when you go to purchase sheet music, and these days so much is available as a PDF, so you go to buy this PDF, instead of downloading it directly onto your iPad, so say purchase this thing on your iPad or it comes through an email and opening that email in your iPad and directly importing it into forScore, instead of doing that, save it in a cloud service first, something like Dropbox or iCloud or Google Drive, and then in forScore, use the services button, and I have mine linked to my Dropbox, and from there, download that music. That way, if something were to happen to your physical iPad, you would still have all these pieces of music that you've purchased in your cloud. Just, as I say, an extra peace of mind security thing. Now, you should still semi-regularly back up forScore on a laptop or a desktop, because any of the annotations that you make, like putting in pedal changes or lever changes or any other sort of markings, in order to still have those if something were to happen to your iPad, you need to have backed up forScore, and I'll link in the video description to the forScore page on how to do that. But as I say, this way at least you will have the PDFs. Now, I like Dropbox because I have a Windows PC at home, and Dropbox works on PC and any Apple product and Android as well. You could also use Google Drive, you could use iCloud, but if possible, I would actually advise against using iCloud for this, because there is the possibility that something goes wrong with your Apple account. Maybe something goes weird with your Apple account, and that could then wipe out your Apple account on your iPad and also on the cloud. So if you're using some other non-Apple cloud service, then if something goes wrong with your Apple account, you still have the cloud service. Or if something goes wrong with the cloud service, hopefully your iPad's fine. Probably not a big deal, but again, it's worth doing. And so, for example, if you don't use Dropbox already, you could create a new Dropbox account just for music, sheet music. And again, some music, like if you're downloading something from IMSLP, chances are you'll be able to download that again if something happens to your iPad. But sheet music that you've purchased, it's nice to have that redundancy. So yeah, just kind of an easy workflow thing that you might incorporate if you don't already, to give yourself a little bit of extra peace of mind, and hopefully you'll never need to use it. So the next tip has to do with turning pages. I just wanted to show you how I have that set up, and I have it set up to turn just with a single tap and with no animation of the page turning. I feel that this single tap is the most efficient and the easiest way to do it. Is it? I don't know, but it seems like that to me. So let me show you how to do that. So you're going to tap in the middle, at least on the default settings. You'll tap in the middle, just one small tap, to bring up all of this menu items up here, and you'll tap the briefcase and then find settings. Now, depending on the size of your iPad, you might actually have to scroll down to find settings. It's the last one here. Again, this is forScore 13.1, I think, right now, so things may change a little bit, but look for that briefcase icon, find some settings. And you'd think maybe page turners and shortcuts, but it's actually in gestures. So I'll go back to that right here in gestures, we find gestures. And this top one, swipe controls. So if I enable that, I can now swipe to turn. And I'll actually disable the tap. So go to gestures, I'll disable tap control. So now if I tap, nothing happens, except now I can tap here on the side and it will bring up all these menu options. But if I swipe, it will turn the page. And again, I think the default, go down to settings again, is with page transitions, maybe the curl. So this, then we see this page transition. Looks cool. Again, this is a 4th generation iPad Pro. It's fairly fast, so it's not really slowing it down. This is a very large PDF. You can see 80 pages. But I find that unnecessary. So again, here's my settings. I go over gestures, not swipe control, tap control, and where are we? Was that here? Page transitions. Yeah, there we are. Page transitions off. So again, sometimes you have to look around and scroll around a little bit to find those options. So that's what I like. It's an easy tap. Now, if you tap too close to the center, you won't turn the page, right? So that's the disadvantage, because with a swipe, it will always turn, I think, and it knows which direction. Also, I think with a swipe, if you're over here and you still swipe, so let's go back. Here's page 27. I could be over here and I could still go to, no, I went back, didn't I? 23, 24, 25. Yeah, I can be swiping in this corner or in this corner and still advancing, or swiping in this corner or this corner and still going back. Whereas with a tap, the side, which side you tap on, matters. Let me go back to this. And again, if you tap too near the middle, it won't turn the page, but if you tap here or here, it will turn the page. I like it. I don't know, is it worth it if you're used to the swipe? I don't know. But anyway, thought I would share that. And again, I think it is potentially the most efficient way to do that. So next, I want to explore a little bit more the idea of gestures. And again, if you're an iPad power user, you know, all sorts of little gestures you can do that, I don't know, just create magic. I don't know all the types of gestures that you can do on the iPad. The iPad itself sort of has a native shortcut ability to set up different shortcuts, but again, I can't offer you any advice for that. If you have some great tips that way, let me know. But here, it's worth exploring the built-in gesture possibilities in forScore. And we'll explore them a little bit, and I'll tell you what I have them set at and what I use. So we go back to that briefcase item, down to settings, over to gestures. And we see we have, as well as these swipe controls, we have a bunch of different shortcuts, different gestures that we can use to do different things. So double tap, either show view options or toggle navigation bars. So let's just see that on or off. We'll just see that in action. So right now, if I double tap, and of course, because I have tap set to turn the page, I have to double tap somewhere sort of in the center of the page. I bring up all these icons for different display options. I don't actually know what all of them do. I just know that this one, the one with two halves of a page, enables half page turns, where when you turn the page, it leaves the bottom half of the page, but shows the top half of the next page. Super useful. I did a whole episode about it. I love it. And so that's one way to sort of toggle back and forth between that. So if we go back to settings and we go back to gestures and we go here to toggle navigation bar, then this will toggle this navigation bar up here. I believe we can also have that set to be permanently displayed. I like the extra space and the cleanliness of not having it there, and I don't mind. So normally, it's not doing it right now, but normally if you just tap once, it will bring that up. So let's double tap to access our navigation bar. We're going to go back to gestures. We're going to turn this back to show view options. Close. So right now, if I just tap here, that will toggle between showing it or not. And then of course we could turn it off, but the double tap, that's useful, might as well. So I definitely use that as a way to access half page turns. We'll talk more about that in just a second. And then we have like a 2-finger single tap, which would be like this. A 3-finger single tap, which would be like this. Tap and hold, so you're holding it for a while. Oops. Tap and hold, right? So you're holding it for a while. Tap and hold with 2 fingers. Tap and hold with 3 fingers. Okay. And then here we can also see that when you're in annotation mode, which is when you're writing stuff, you can have the double tap, right? The 2-finger single tap, same little icon, and to be undo or the three-finger tap to be redo. Cool. There's also corner taps, which I haven't explored, but that you can tap the corners to access certain options. So let's go back to this and explore what we could assign these things. So let's look at the two-finger tap, single tap. So it could bring up a menu like the scores menu, or bookmark, set lists, all these options, the metronome, the tuner, tools, right? So our briefcase thing. Navigation, half page, toggle to page, audio, play audio, toggle metronome, new bookmark, that could be useful. We'll talk about bookmarks in a moment. That'll be my last tip. Import, share, annotate, all of these things. So I have it set to half page turn, and I'm going to show you why. So in general, because I use a pencil, I'm not looking for a shortcut to enter annotation mode, because I can just use this directly annotate. So I have it set up so that I'm not actually entering annotation mode, which would look like this. And I also have the double tap set to become the eraser. So, but what I do find is that in general, I use just a full page turn when I'm practicing and learning a new piece. I generally don't have a foot pedal set up, only if I'm planning to perform a piece from music and use half page turns, which if I'm performing a piece, I will always or almost always use half page turns. But if I'm learning it, I'll generally just have the full page turn, and I'll be tapping to turn the page as I learn it, because in general, my goal is to memorize the piece. But sometimes I will want to access the half page turn. So what if I get to the bottom of this, I want to practice getting from here to the beginning of the next page, right? So I can do this I can do this double tap, and then this, and then tap again to exit that, and then turn. Okay, but that involves, quite a few actions. I can also tap once to bring up this menu. I can tap this little gear icon. That will also bring up this. I can tap this, tap once to get rid of it, and turn. Both of those are a little bit, take some time. So here with a two-finger tap, there it is. So it's still normal one page, but if I want to check out the bottom of this and the top of this, I can do that. So for me, I quite love that. It's something that I do use enough that I love that shortcut. Of the other options, there isn't anything else that has stood out to me as something, I really want to have that on a shortcut. Right now, so the three-finger tap I find a little bit sketchy. You can see there, I tried to do a three-finger tap and it didn't. So it should be there we are. So it should be toggling on my metronome. And let me just turn that volume up a little bit. So maybe I have to be more like this at an angle. I don't know. You can see that it's a little, for me at least, I don't know it well enough. More practice. It's a little bit sketchy. And of course, when you're toggling that metronome on or off, the metronome is at whatever setting you had it at last, right? So generally you'd want to go in here and set it anyway if you're about to use it. And for me, I generally either use a physical metronome or I'll use a metronome app on my phone so I can see that as a separate thing going on instead of having the app metronome in here. So I should experiment with some of these other options potentially for this three-finger tap. Again, I think they're all the same options we had on the single finger tap. So again, maybe create a bookmark, or maybe rearrange. Yeah, rearrange is something that I use and takes a couple clicks to get to, so that could be useful, and I'm going to show you rearrange in a second. But anyway, These gestures are worth exploring to see. So for me, the half page turn is fantastic. Everything else, not so useful. Now, I do like the tap and hold on annotate. That we can see there are fewer options for the tap and hold. And again, this is where if we go tap and hold it for a while, it brings us to this annotation thing, which we can also access by clicking that little squiggly button. And again, the icons have changed over the years, but yes, this is annotate. So great. But anyway, I invite you to explore those gestures and see what you can do to sort of make life easier for you in terms of having something that maybe took a bunch of actions to do to instead become just one single motion. Okay, and so the last tip I have for you is an easy way to extract an individual piece within a larger PDF book. So this, for example, is Box's, the first book of his 50 etudes. And it, as you can see, has 80 pages. A lot of music in here. Now, let's suppose you're working on, I don't know, Etude 7, one of my favorites. So you could do that, tap, tap, tap. Okay, here we finally are. Well, that's a bit of a pain to do that every time. Now, you could also, so here I'll load it again. That'll bring us back to page 1. Tap here to bring up the menu item. Down here, you can see that this will let you scroll on it. It shows you which page it is, but I don't want to remember, but I might kind of remember almost approximately where it is, right? It's kind of down here. So for the beginning, tap, maybe about here, almost. So you can do that, and that might be fine. But again, you're practicing that day after day after day. Wouldn't it be nice if you just had a separate PDF of that, so you could add that to your set list? So you could just go straight to that. So you can do that. And one way you can do that is just go to the briefcase and go to rearrange, which is a helpful tool to be aware of. Rearrange shows you the entire PDF. And it allows you to, for example, click, hold, and drag. If you scan something in the wrong order, for example, it's super helpful. You can also go X, so we don't need that page. And here we have 2 scans of the cover. Let's get rid of this one, which is a little harder to read. We can also see at the end, yeah, we don't need those, so I'm just clicking the X. Oh, nothing on page 75. Then we could either click Save As to give it a new name, like 50 Etudes, Book 1, edited, or we can save it, and it'll warn us that, of course, are we sure we want to save it? In this case, yes, I don't need those pages, so I'm going to overwrite that. Great. It's going to take a little bit of time because it's such a big file. So what we could do is we could use that rearrange tool to X out all of the pages that are not the one that we want. Or slightly easier, I suppose slightly faster, is we could X out all the pages before the start of the, in this case, the etude that we want. So let me give you an example of that. Let's see, so here's Etude 6, here's Etude 7, and we can click on it once to bring it up a little bit bigger. Yes, there's Etude 7. So we could go X, try and tap the little X, and X, keeping an eye, here's Etude 6, so we can do that a few more times. There's Etude 6. There's Etude 7, so that's the first one now. So if we were to, and we want to save this as, save this as Etudes, book 50 Etudes, book 1, starting with 7, or I don't know, whatever we want to save it as. Or we could say, well, let's okay, here's the last page, it's only 3 pages. We could also go X. And depending on your iPad, this might be fast or slow to do that. Okay, now we can say this as Etude 7, right? Sure, I'm going to cancel, and I'm going to cancel. Yes, discard changes. So you could do that. And for many years, that's what I did do, and it's possible. It's kind of annoying. What you can do instead is use the bookmarks to streamline and make this process a lot easier. So if you're going to use the bookmarks, it's easiest if you start on the page. Oh, there I was. Pretty good. Muscle memory right there. to start on the page where you want to start the bookmark, where you want to start this, in this case, A27. So I'll click this little bookmarks icon, and I'm going to say plus. I'm going to add a bookmark, and I'm going to call this A27. Now, by default, it will start on this page you had loaded, and it will end on that page as well. We want it to end 2 pages later. Now, we can go back and have it start in 16 or 15 or 14 or whatever. So, you know, if you click the bookmark directly from the first page, you could just go blah, 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 plus, 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 until you get to, I believe it's 17. But again, it's maybe a little bit hard to see here, hard to read. Is that really where we're going to start? So you could. Oh, and see what it's doing there is it actually didn't change the starting one. We want to be on 17 for the first one. Okay. And then we want to go forward to the end and 19. So now 17 to 19. I'm just going to do that again just to show it to you without going back and forward. So I'm going to cancel this. I'm going to go plus, and I'm going to say A27. Here it is on the first page, and now when I go plus, plus, we're on 19. We can kind of see the double bar line. Great. And I can save this. Cool. So now, within this book, if we're anywhere, we can tap the bookmark icon, and we see this bookmark, and we can click on it. The interesting thing is, once you've clicked on that bookmark link, you can only see those pages that are within that bookmark. I can't go previous to this. I can't go to page 16, and I can't go further. I can't go to page 20. If I want to get out of that, as it were, I would just have to load the book again, and now I can go through the whole book. So now, if we, within this book, I've loaded the whole book, I can go to anything, but now I'm going to tap the bookmark, go to that bookmark thing, access the briefcase, access rearrange, and now, by default, having entered the bookmark, it just has those 3 pages. And we can go save as. Now, what I really wish is that it would use the title we've given the bookmark as our save as the default, because now I have to go and give it a title again, like books etude 7 from 50 etudes, for example. Save. Take a moment, there it is. And so we can go plus, find this as our most recent one, add it, and now, if we want to practice that, we just go directly there. We don't, instead of going to here and then having to go to bookmarks and click here, now it's just on our set list, boom, those 3 pages. So fantastic. So again, just a really easy and handy way to extract one piece from within a larger book, which can be really, really useful. So I hope you've enjoyed these 4 tips for forScore. Is this something that you find useful? I can certainly do more of this. Of course, I have my review and my sort of impressions of the Harp E coming up. That will be very soon, maybe next week. And I also have another episode about another interesting harp design that I think you'll enjoy as well. So some good stuff coming up soon. In the meantime, I hope you have a great week or 2, and I'll see you soon for another episode of Harp Tuesday. Cheers.